Hello, Comp 2 students. This is basically to serve as a review for your final exam after I give you an overview of what we're covering this week and next. It is primarily for the Friday evening students that I was not able to meet with last week and am not meeting with this week due to the holiday. So I hope that you especially pay attention to what I'm going to be going over here at this time. So basically, we have this week, which is week 11, and week 12 is next week. I'll meet all of you in week 12. In week 11, I'll just be meeting the Wednesday morning class. No Friday class, of course, for the Friday evening students due to the holiday. If you haven't done your presentations, you need to catch me when you can. Uh, if it's this week for the Wednesday students or the last day of class for the Friday students, and do those presentations orally for up to full credit. If you just decide that you're going to just submit the PowerPoints without the presentation, that's okay. You could only earn up to 75%. All of you need to make sure that you upload your PowerPoint presentations to NGrade. If you have any rough drafts of your final paper, you need to have those in as well this week as soon as possible so that I can evaluate those rough drafts and make sure that you have all the required elements in there. We could go back and forth with that so that you can make sure that you have a great grade on your final paper. And you'll be graded according to what has been on the assignment sheet, which is down here, which is that you have all the minimum requirements, which is the APA format perfectly done. 2 times that you borrow from other sources, and you have that perfectly done. Have a good introduction and a good conclusion. You also have two main points of cause, effect, solutions, or a combination of those things. You have an outline with some A's and B's. It does not need to be as elaborated of an outline as we've done before in class. You also have a minimum of 2 sources, and those are properly done on a reference page. Your whole project is 3.5 pages long minimum, and there are no errors in the commas, fragments, run-ons, anything that we've talked about in class. So that is all on the final paper. I will be reviewing any of these drafts today, Tuesday, Wednesday. Then I'll pick up on my grading and reviewing of any of that then next Monday, Tuesday, etc., all of next week to make sure that I can give you all feedback promptly so that you could correct any of that and get any of those final papers in. Some have asked again about being exempt. If you turn all your work in during this week and up to the 3rd, and including your final paper, and I can have you with an A average, then I can make you exempt from the final exam. The final exam is just a multiple choice, but there is a short essay portion. It doesn't take very long to do, and I'm going to be giving you a detailed study guide to help you accomplish that. But some of you may earn that exemption with an A by the 3rd, having everything in perfectly done. And I will message you if you are exempt. If you are exempt from taking the actual final exam, attendance rules still apply, and if you don't show up and sign in, you will be marked absent. If you can afford that plus your exemption, then you're good to go. So the NGrade grades, as you see them in NGrade, are the exact grade averages that are then reported to ITT. Okay. So if you're missing any work in the NGrade system, then make sure that you get that all caught up. So let's talk about the final exam then. At this point, you'll be receiving this final exam as an attachment in a message with obviously with the link to this video. I wanted to go over a few things again, especially for my Comp to students on Friday evening so that they have all this information. But if you bring this study guide and your book to class, then and you're not exempt, then you'll have everything you need to be very successful on the final exam. But I did want to go over this with you. Some of the times on this exam, I'm just literally giving you some factual information that you need to know and remember and have in front of you to be able to do the multiple choice. There's other times I need you to look up a few things, take some notes here as we go over it so that you have that information as well. So this first bit of information is on page 6. It is what is an example of a traditional argument. What you need to keep in mind is that a traditional argument, what that means is what we normally think of as an argument, like arguing with friends and family, maybe a lawyer arguing in court. What it does not have anything to do with is negotiations, peace treaties, etc. So those are not traditional arguments, but traditional arguments are like arguing with your friends. What is the definition of plagiarism? The definition of plagiarism is basically when you're borrowing that information without giving it citations. You are deliberately passing off someone else's writing as your own. That is plagiarism. Page 81 and page 82 explain what mapping ideas are like. Some of you have maybe done the kinds of mapping that we're talking about. It's like bubbling out different ideas randomly to give you an idea of some planning for your essay. It's another way is kind of outlining your ideas so that you are preparing your arguments in your essays and giving it some kind of organizational structure. So these are ways that you can organize your thoughts on paper. It's through mapping ideas and creating outlines. Your book also, and we've discussed this in class, talks about the 5 different types of claims. You need to look at that list again and determine what indeed are the types of claims so that if you get a multiple choice question where you have to identify them, then you're going to easily be able to identify the different types of claims and you'll be able to pick out what is not a type of claim. For example, if you had a multiple choice question where it had assigning value or establishing fact or establishing cause, those would be types of claims. If something else was thrown in there, then you would know that is not. Then the text of a visual argument. That is back to the trace discussions that we had. And the text of a visual argument is actually the picture that or chart, graph, something like that that you would see in a visual argument. We looked at those when we looked at the Rosa Parks picture and different things that were in the book that were at a glance giving us an argument about a particular topic. We also discussed the Aristotle method of argument with the logos, the ethos, and the pathos. If you look around page 205, there'll be some information about that. What you need to keep in mind about the logos is that that is the logical part of the argument. It's the logical proof. It's relying on factual data and reasons. So there's very logical information in this part of the Aristotle argument. The ethos is the more emotional part of the argument, and the pathos emphasizes the why. Why is it that we care about this topic at all? That is those are the parts of the arguments that Aristotle would give. There are 3 parts of the Toulmin model: the claim, the support, and the warrant. So claim, support, and warrant are the 3 parts of the Toulmin model. According to Toulmin, all of those parts would have to be present. So there's a thesis statement here. Well, there's a statement about a thesis statement, that it is a claim. Is that true or false? That is indeed true. This thesis statement comes at the end of your introduction paragraph, and this is what it is. It is nothing more than a claim. Warrants are often unstated and just understood. That is a true statement. We don't always have to have the warrant completely stated in an essay or an argument. So this is a true statement. Backing in the Toulmin model gives support for the warrant or thesis. That is another true statement. The purpose of the Rogerian argument is to find common ground. That is true. The Rogerian argument uses the language of calmness. That is true as well. And the Rogerian approach shows how the opposition is sometimes right. That is true. Let me scroll down a little bit here. Oral argument is less formal or formal than written argument, and the answer to this is it is less formal. So when you give an oral argument, you very well are going to be functioning less formally than if you do a written argument. When discussing oral argument in a comparison to a written argument, it is interesting to note that oral argument has existed for much longer. That is true. And then oral argument has the advantage over written argument in the use of physical as well as verbal strategies. That makes that a true statement. And if you think about it, as you give an oral argument, you have the advantage of giving physical gestures, giving tone, all of those things, and that is part of that oral argument, and that gives an advantage. Written argument can be reread, however, and that makes it easier to evaluate. So because we have it written down, we can work through it over and over again very easily and evaluate argument as we've done in class. This statement is talking about the Chicago Manual of Style. We've used the APA this semester. We also talked about the MLA, standing for Modern Language Association. The Chicago Manual of Style is another method of documentation. So it's called the CMS. So that is true. It is acceptable. And the other question on the test has to do with icons. We know icons a lot from the computer world, where these, like at the bottom of my screen even, are icons. They're easily recognizable images that automatically give us, a bit of knowledge. It gives us a very predictable response. There's different things that also could be classified as icons, like the American Eagle. It's an icon for the United States of America. There's different things that are very recognizable. They sometimes could be considered like logos, like the Coca-Cola emblem or the McDonald's arches. These can be considered icons as well. Very recognizable images that provoke a response in us. What happens when two people see the same visual argument? Do they see it in the same way or uniquely? Obviously, they see it uniquely. If I give an argument, visual argument with a gun on a teacher's desk, some people would see that as pro, some people would see that as con. So they're going to see the visual argument differently. Visual arguments such as graphs and charts make numerical data more accessible to the audience. This is true. If you just think about it, if you have a lot of statistics and facts and all of that you want to try to give in your argument, if you were doing an oral argument even, this is when you would want to use it in a visual form like a graph or chart to make that data more understandable to the audience. When you use words from outside sources in your papers, you should clearly indicate where you found them. That is absolutely true. Anytime now, in this class, in future classes, in your life, if you use outside source material, you need to make sure that you indicate where you found them. True or false, a fallacy is a faulty or invalid proof. It is actually a true statement. A fallacy is a faulty or invalid truth. That is true. Now here's a section of some actual sample multiple choice questions for you. I'll just give you the answers to these so you can study for the test with this as well. So number one, which of the following equations best expresses the definition of argument? This answer is C. An argument is a claim plus a support. Number two, a visual argument is one in which the text is A, a picture. Number three, which of the following is not an example of traditional argument? That would be D, a treaty negotiation between countries. Scrolling up here again. In which of the following situations will argument work best? It will work best when two parties share common ground on the same issue. Which of the following is not an element of the rhetorical situation? That would be C, the thesis. The rest of these, if you recall, are part of the trace that we're about to get into, but the thesis is not. So then we have matching on the trace. We worked with that on one of the weeks that we had in class. So if we look here, we have number 6, text. We have to match it with what's on the side here. That would go with D, argument. So text is D, argument. Number 7, reader is A, audience. Number 8, author is E, arguer. Number 9, the constraints is B, the beliefs and attitudes that influence the audience. And number 10, the exigence, that is C, the reason for the argument. Now here are some more true and false questions. Number 1, the thesis for a written argument is what Toulmin calls the claim. That is true. Number 2, the support or evidence for an argument is also called the rebuttal. That is false. Number 3, 3 parts of every argument are the claim, the support, and the warrant. That is true. Number 9, none of the parts of Toulmin's model adapts an argument to the audience's needs. That is false. Number 5, warrants are clearly spoken or written parts of the argument. That is false. Number 6, warrants are attitudes or beliefs the writer hopes the audience shares. That is true. Number 7, qualifiers place limitations on arguments, defining when it is true. That is true. Number 8, an arguer uses facts and examples as supports for a claim. That is true. And number 9, backing provides additional support for a warrant. That is also true. So this serves as your review for your final exam. Like I said, have those notes, your book. You could bring anything else that you'd like then to help you with that final exam. There are 40, I think, 40 questions, true, false, multiple choice, and then there is a short essay that you will work with as well. So study with that very briefly. Really, if you bring this to your testing, then you'll have no problem whatsoever. So if you have any questions on this or anything else, message me. I'll be on the N-grade messaging system quite frequently. So in the meantime, have a great Thanksgiving.